It is well known that certain historical eras have a particular aesthetic, and perhaps no era in history conjures up as many specific images as the Wild, Wild West. In the 19th century, the history of what would eventually become the western half of the United States of America was dramatic and dynamic. When one thinks of the early American frontier, the first things that probably come to mind are probably gold rushes, railroads, the plight of indigenous tribes, and, of course, cowboys and outlaws. And many legends, like Jesse James or Buffalo Bill, remain well known today. However, some legends lean a little more toward the supernatural than simply being about a small town that can't support both an outlaw and a sheriff. The history of the Wild West dates back well before European colonists even made it to the eastern part of the continent, and it is as stunning as it is remote. 10 yeehaw legends from the western frontier are described in this list. Number 10, the Haunted Bullock Hotel. The HBO Western program, in fact, the fictional town of Deadwood was based on the actual gold rush settlement in South Dakota. Seth Bullock, the main figure and a former store owner turned sheriff, was actually equally real. Additionally, it is said that he monitors the town of Deadwood from beyond the grave. Bullock's ghost is said to keep an eye on his property at the Bullock Hotel, which was built in the final decade of the 19th century. But the former sheriff isn't a bad guy. He frequently just performs prankish poltergeist actions like moving furniture, slamming doors, and knocking things over. Even a lost young boy is said to have received assistance from the spirit in returning to his parents' room. The young child simply pointed at a portrait of Seth Bullock when his parents questioned him about who had guided him. Number 9, the Platte River Death Ship. When the idea of haunted ships cruising the seas seems overrated, look no further than Wyoming, a landlocked state where, despite all odds, a haunted sailing ship is rumored to sail. But don't worry, Wyoming's death ship actually adheres to a body of water. Instead of drifting through the plains or deserts, it sails the Platte River specifically. One person is said to see the Platte River death ship once every 25 years, but it does much more than just silently float down a river. Legend has it that anyone unlucky enough to see the ship appear out of the mist will also see a ghostly corpse of someone they know among the spectral sailors. The witness is said to have died in the real world shortly after that. Trapper Leon Weber, who saw his fiancée on the Erie frigate, was the death ship's first eyewitness in 1862. According to reports, the woman passed away on the same day that Weber saw her. Number 8, the ghost town of Garnet. Just because a place is referred to as a ghost town doesn't mean ghosts live there. Some locations merely become deserted and are exposed to the elements. The exception to the rule is the abandoned town of Garnet. This still-standing former boomtown is situated in western Montana and is home to a number of structures that are said to be haunted by ghosts. The most notorious saloon, for instance, is Kelly's Saloon, where raucous music and laughter can be heard without a single person present. The Wells Hotel also experiences doors slamming, strange laughter, and strange, incorporeal footsteps. When gold was discovered in the nearby First Chance Gulch in 1865, the town gained in popularity. However, when the gold ran out in 1905, fewer than 100 people remained until there was no one left. Number 7, the Phantom Train of Marshall Pass. Ghost trains are a mainstay of American folklore, from the purportedly spectral funeral train of Abraham Lincoln in Illinois to the equally haunted illusory locomotive in Louisiana. And these kinds of tales are not unfamiliar in the Wild West, which was particularly impacted by the development of the steam train. In the 1880s, a section of one of the most infamous ghost trains of the American frontier, which ran between Denver and Santa Fe, was once seen near Marshall Pass in Colorado. When he heard what sounded like a train right behind his own, a train that wouldn't slow down and would soon crash, Nelson Edwards, the engineer, heard it and saw it as he was maneuvering his locomotive along the icy Colorado tracks. Edwards bit the bullet and pulled the lever when a warning light indicated that it was necessary for him to apply the brakes. Strangely, Edwards' train did not collide with any other trains, and his locomotive was unharmed. Nelson Edwards, however, resigned the following day after receiving a mysterious note that described the details of a train crash that had occurred years earlier. Number 6, the Bandit Ghoul of 6 Mile Canyon. One would anticipate this Nevada specter to have a colorful past given its colorful name. In the 1860s, Big Jack Davis was a skilled train and stagecoach robber. While the outlaw's unclaimed fortune in the Nevada wilderness would grow a reputation that exceeded Davis's while Davis was alive, one failed robbery would result in the outlaw being shot in the back and killed. Whereas most dead people's spirits appear as ghosts, Big Jack Davis allegedly took on different forms. According to legend, the outlaw, who was referred to as a shrieking white demon, grew wings from the bullet wounds in his back and chased anyone who ventured to look for his treasure away. Number 5. The Headless Valley. Most Western films depict the wild Southwest when one thinks of the Wild West, but the western half of Canada is also home to a fascinating past and beautiful scenery. Additionally, if the legends are to be believed, it was a particularly eerie place where many prospectors hoping to strike it rich during the Yukon Gold Rush in the 19th and 20th centuries would meet a horrifying end. The Nahana River Valley in the Northwest Territories of Canada is a huge jumble of paranormal activity, ranging from alleged cannibal giants to cryptid dire wolves to a dozen actual, documented disappearances and mysterious murders. The majority of enigmatic events, however, took place during the height of the Yukon Gold Rush in the late 19th century. The deaths of prospecting brothers Willie and Frank McLeod, whose bodies were discovered to be decapitated after allegedly discovering a rich prospect, are perhaps the most notable case, though. Number 4. Texas's Headless Horseman. This subsequent headless legend, which continues the decapitation motif, is located this time near the southernmost point of the western frontier. Where the legend of El Muerto is most prevalent is in southern Texas, close to the border with Mexico. El Muerto is a terrifying spirit to come into contact with, despite the fact that the English translation from Spanish is a little on the nose, translating to simply, the dead. A horse thief going by the name of Vidal abducted prized Mustangs from Texas Rangers William Alexander Anderson Wallace and Creed Taylor in 1850. The Rangers decided to leave a grisly warning for other would-be horse thieves after they apprehended the bandit. The man was beheaded, then his body was bound to his mount, and they rode off into the distance. However, it was claimed that Vidal's body would resist deterioration. Throughout the following few decades, hapless settlers would come across the menacing Texas Headless Horseman riding through the wilderness, earning him the nickname El Muerto. Number 3. Ghosts of Tombstone. Many gruesome acts took place in Arizona's appropriately named Tombstone, but Curly Bill Brocious' accidental killing of Fred White in 1880 is probably the most infamous. White was the town marshal, a mistake, of course, and Brocious towed the line of an outlaw by being a member of the infamous Clanton gang. The marshal's black-coated specter is allegedly still visible in the streets of Tombstone, which has persisted to this day as a tourist destination, despite being less flashy than a traditional cowboy quick draw. His ghost isn't the only one, though. In addition to the ghosts of those who died in the Bisbee Massacre, which was the result of a botched robbery, a woman in a white dress is also frequently cited. The violent and criminal past of Tombstone, though frequently embellished, is rife with outlaw gang activity, so well-documented history of hauntings isn't out of place. Number 2. Skinwalker Ranch. Some legends are the kind that are entertaining to discuss around a campfire, while others are still widely believed to be true and are taboo to even mention in passing. The Skinwalker is a legendary figure in Navajo storytelling, and it is extremely offensive to even bring up the subject, much less dismiss it. Uinta County, Utah, is home to one allegedly active paranormal location known as Skinwalker Ranch, after Terry and Gwen Sherman acquired it in 1994. Before selling the property 2 years later, the Sherman family is said to have seen a wave of cattle mutilations, enormous, magically bulletproof wolves, even UFO and poltergeist activity. Although the ranch's legend is more recent, the titular monster has reportedly been seen in the cursed Bottle Hollow nearby for many years. However, it's crucial to remember that the Ute tribe, not the Navajo, owns the nearby territory. Number 1. The Ghost of Jesse James. It should come as no surprise that one of America's most notorious outlaws is the focus of numerous legends that extend beyond his exploits as a real-life criminal. Both the site of Jesse James's supposed ghost and the place where the outlaw was killed by gang member Robert Ford in 1882 are located at the Jesse James farm in the Missouri town of Kearney. Where none exist, ethereal hoofbeats and footsteps can be heard. Security alarms aren't tripped by moving shadows, and sounds of a sudden gunshot can even be heard coming from inside the building. The James family has even claimed that they have seen the apparitions of Civil War soldiers on the property, which indicates that the house was haunted long before the infamous outlaw grew up and began his crime spree. However, activity undoubtedly picked up after James was shot to death.